What's going on, y'all? I appreciate everyone tuning in. Second podcast for the time, just trying something different, seeing if I like it or not, but we're gonna see. Yesterday was a little bit about myself. I'm still gonna go talk about a little bit about myself because there's a lot to talk about me. I've been through a lot of experiences as a child to an adult, through work, through you can name it. That's what happens when you start getting older. You start experiencing a lot more. And, I thought about it. I never understood, when grandparents used to say, well, we have 50, 60 years of life. We have more knowledge and more experience and advice than you. When you're young and naive, you're just like, no, you don't. I know what's going on. I know what's going on in today's world right now. But as I gotten older, I've realized they're right. There's some knowledge I'm getting more now, and I'm like, dang, my grandparents were right, my grandmas were right. So, but anyways, going back though. So a little bit about me. My nationality. I am Japanese, German, and Norwegian, along with other ethnicities that I don't know what I am. Such as my grandma is full Japanese. She married her husband, which is my grandfather. He is full German. Full German. And then my other grandparents, my grandma is full Norwegian, 100% Norwegian. And then my grandfather, I've always got mixed stories of what he was, mixed stories. So I don't know what he was or anything like that. So in the end, I'm going to go quarter Japanese, quarter German, quarter Norwegian. And the other quarter, unknown. I'm going to say unknown. But so a little bit about that side. Well, let's talk about the grandparents, the full Japanese and full German. Um, my grandma, full Japanese, I believe, born and raised in Haneda, Tokyo. My other grandfather, I'm not sure what part of Germany he's from. His mom and his dad. So my great grandparents, they traveled and moved to the United States. I didn't get to ask that full detail because he passed away, and I would say probably I think about 6, 7 years ago. But with that being said, um, at the time I wasn't at the right mind frame to ask these questions and keep capture the moments of talking to him. And with that being said, he spoke a lot about religion, spoke a lot about politics. Those were the main two topics that he always talked about. He was a hardcore Christian. Hey, to each of their own of religion, ain't no judgment here, and politics. He had his one side, but I'm not going to go into it because you know how today's world's a little bit sensitive, so I'm not going to get to that route. But maybe later down the road, once you get to know me and get the vibe and all that good such. But with that being said, it was always politics and religion. I never got to ask the questions of where he was born and how did they travel and such like that. The only part that I knew was that he grew up poor. Um, that was one of the main things that I do know about him. He was also in the Navy for I believe over 20 plus years. So much respects to him of keeping our country safe and of all that such. He was a radio man on the Navy on I believe it was a submarine or a boat. I'm not too quite sure. See, this is where I wish I asked a lot of questions. And I share this with you because I don't want you guys to live in regret. I do have some regrets, and like this is one of them I should have asked, but I was just young and young minded. Um, he was a radio man. I believe he was a CPO, chief. I don't know that he was the CPO though, from my understanding. So he radio man, and he traveled around the world while he was in the Navy. With that being said, he met my grandma in Japan when they were traveling in the Navy. He met my grandma in Japan. I've heard so many stories about these things, which is hilarious, about my grandma hearing the one story, and I didn't really get to hear that much about my grandfather's side of the story. But I guess, um, he was there in Japan, and they were introduced. My grandfather was introduced by his friends and the ladies that they were with. He was introduced to my grandma, and my grandma thought he was, not good looking. And I'm talking about he was about 6'3", about 250 pounds, 240 pounds, but that was all muscle and big bones. He was a big bone guy. I think he wore size 13 shoe. So he was just stocky and broad shoulders. He was just well built. I'm not talking about, kind of being a little meat on him and such like that. No, I'm talking about he was very stocky. So, and broad shoulders, like you don't want to mess with him. It looked like I was scared of him sometimes. um, so that he was introduced, and my grandma thought he was not good looking. So my grandma and my grandfather, he was an interesting person. And again, I love him and I miss him in RIP. He was introduced, and they went to go eat. And the main story that I hear a lot from my grandma is they went clubbing. They went to a club to go dance. My grandfather didn't dance. If you guys ever met him, he was not a dancer type of person. He wasn't like a outing type of person. He was pretty quiet self. He was to himself and such like that. Of course, made my grandma happy. But with that being said, they went clubbing, and my grandma asked him, "Do you want to dance?" He said no. And he asked one of his friends if he can go dance with her so she can go have fun. And my grandma gave the face like, "What?" And Japanese, man. Japanese, they're interesting, gave the face like, "What the hell?" And they went dancing, and my grandfather would just sat there and watch. He really wasn't an alcoholic. If he did, it was just because of the being in the Navy. We all know how that works, especially back then. He did smoke cigarettes back then too, but he stopped a long time ago. I think he just did it for the Navy. He also had tattoos, pinup girls and everything like that on his body. So I think it was from my understanding, was to identify the body if they were to ever get in the water, because it would be absorbed. Their body would absorb, and you really couldn't tell of who it was. So the tattoos would help, identify who's who, just in case of those scenarios. So with that being said, he had tattoos and such like that. So he that club, and he never danced. But they still went on a few dates and such like that. And my grandma, she was very short and petite, to be honest. Right now she's probably like, I don't know, 5 foot 4'11". So probably back then she was like 5'2", 5'3", and here's him 6'3". Probably she was probably weighing like 110, probably less than that, probably like 100 pounds. And here's this 200 plus guy stalking, bulk and such like that. So they went on dates and such like that, and I remember that from what my grandma told me, that he met her parents, my great grandparents, met the parents, and they felt iffy about it because he was so quiet, so polite. They try to get him to drink. Usually, Japanese people, when you celebrate or party or introduce yourselves and such like that, you drink and party. He said no. My grandfather's like, "Nope, I don't drink. I gotta ship out soon, and I don't drink." So Japanese people take that disrespectful. Like if they offer you food, you better eat that thing. If they offer you drink, you better drink that thing. If they offer you gifts, you better take it. You know what I'm saying? Because they will consider that as being rude, and being rude, and kind of like a, not a disgrace, but they'll feel some type of way about it for sure. So when they offered him a drink, my grandfather a drink, he's like, no. They didn't like him at first, but once they got to know him and what he was about and such like that, and he was a good, solid man. My grandma always says he's black and white, and he was like black and white. Like you can, yes, no, he wouldn't lie. He was an honest man. Wouldn't cheat the system in any sort of way. Did not believe in that at all. Did not believe in getting assistance from the government at all, because he was doing his diligence of being in the Navy. So when he moved, he tried to get my grandma to move out here. she was pregnant with my mom. Um, and my mom, she was born in Japan, actually. My mom was born in Japan. And then they had another daughter, which is my aunt. Rest in peace, my aunt also. She was actually born in Michigan, which I always found that interesting. I'm like, how'd you get to Michigan when you lived in California majority of your life? I guess it was because when they, I guess that's where he, not stationed, but I guess that's where they moved my grandma to the state and such like that. They were there, where the Great Lakes are at and such. So my grandma was out there with my aunt and my mom. Um, I don't know that much about Michigan, but I know that the first house that they ever bought was in the current city that I live in, and they stayed in the house, which was, I believe, a two-bedroom. I think a two-bedroom, one-bathroom house. Corner house, very small, but it's still it's beautiful. If you go to that neighborhood, it's a beautiful neighborhood. Um, Not the city what it used to be. Back then it was a lot nicer. Now it's not so much. But they moved to that city, bought a house because back in those days, you buy a house, you bought a house, you bought a house with your wife, and it's not like today's world where I'm not saying every situation is different. Every situation is different. Everyone has different lifestyles, and everyone has different mentalities, and everyone has different things. But back in those days, it was, the times where it was the American dream of you buy a house and you live on a house and you work an honest job and you get paid and you pay the bills and you have food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. That was how it was back then, and it should be to this day. To be honest, but with that, they stayed in the house for quite a while. I believe all the way up to middle school when my mom was in middle school. Then they moved to another house, which was like a few blocks, like not that far at all, actually. Walking distance for sure. They bought a bigger house, which was a three-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house, and it's kind of like a tri-level house. It's somewhat 3 stories, but it's like a tri-level. If you know what tri-level is, it's kind of like that. So my mom, because I guess they were my mom and my aunt, they were getting to the age where they needed their own separate rooms. And my mom and my aunt, they're two completely different people, night and day. Not even close to looks, not even close to act, not even close to music, clothes, clubbing, mentality, everything completely different. So they definitely got in a lot of arguments. So that's why they got a bigger house. And um, my grandma still lives in that house to this day. So I want to say they've been in that house for what, 40 years? My grandma's been in the house for 40 years, so it's kind of like a family tradition, which is dope because you have a lot of memories in that house, like such as like me, my brother, my mom, my aunt, my my cousin. I call him my son, but that's another story, and we'll get to that later on. Through the days of podcasting, but my little cousin, little cousin. So it's a lot of memories in that house, a lot of household memories. So my grandma stayed in the house as much as she can. But so they lived in the city for quite a while, and he was the security guard. After he retired from the Navy, he became a security guard and was working for like, Allied Services and Securitas and such like that. I don't know exactly what company it was, but he worked for like Securitas or Allied Services, and he was, like I said, an honest man. If some people were parking in the handicap spot and they weren't handicapped, he'll call you out on it. But he was polite where he'll open the door, close the door, and say, good morning and afternoon, and talk here and there. He was very, very friendly, quiet, scary. A lot of people in the neighborhood were scared of him. In the neighborhood that he lived, a lot of people were scared of him because, like I said, he would speak his mind, but only when it was necessary. Such as, like, if 8 a.m., let's say 8 a.m. is the time where you can start cutting grass. Anytime anyone cut grass earlier than that, oh, he would wake up and he would step outside and talk to you, but not like in a fighting, yelling or something like that. He'll walk up to you and talk to you like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this at this certain time. or like such as like it's if it's 8 o'clock at night and there's a guy working on his car down the street, he would walk up to you and be like, "Look, it's late, it's past, it's nighttime. You shouldn't be working on a car this late and such like that." And everyone respected him because he was a well-rounded man. Everyone respected him, and everyone thought he was scary, you know. But once did they little know down the road in life, in years, they realized my grandma was scary. And I'm talking about the little Japanese, little 5 footer, 5'3", 5'2", 5'1", because as the time goes by, you start shrinking down a little bit. They found out that she was actually the scary one and he was the nice one. He was just tall, intimidating, but he had a good general, a good general heart, loving and caring and such like that. But with that being said, he how do I say this? Like I said, he was an honest man, and rules are rules, and you follow the rules. That's how he was. So like driving on the freeway, he wasn't the greatest driver, but he would drive 65 miles per hour in his Volkswagen station wagon. I think it was a station wagon to be exact. But he would drive like 65 miles on the freeway, because if it said 65, you go 65. If it says you drive 45, you go 45. You turn your blinker on. He was old school where he would warm up his car for 5 minutes sitting in the car and then drive off. I always remember he always wore gloves, leather gloves when driving, his sunglasses. He always wore a hat when he ever stepped out, and he wore his hat where it would be like on the very top of his head, not going down like this. You see how the baseball cap, you put it down. He wore it to the very top where it will stay up top like this. Wore gloves, wore his aviators type of glasses, and he would drive. And he had like a little stuffed kitten in the back, which was always interesting, and tissue in the back. And he would never talk on the phone. He never owned a cell phone. He never wanted a cell phone. He was old school where if he wrote to family, family members that were out of state or in state or whatever it was, he was so old school. He liked to not really email either. That was later down the road. He liked to use the typewriter. I'm talking about the old school fashioned typewriters where you go ding 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 ding. He liked that a lot. He actually did a lot of the typewriting, and then of course the digital typewriters. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you guys know what I'm talking about. Where you type it all out, and then that's the times where you could save it, and then once you click print, it will print out the whole thing all at once instead of typing it at that moment. And if you made an error, you made an error. That's how I learned how to use the typewriter and the digital typewriters. And then, of course, he progressed to um, writing emails and such like that. But he also he was old school where he would do Christmas cards, Thanksgiving cards, Easter cards, and always put a Bible verse in it. Like I said, he was a very religious man, full Lutheran, I believe Lutheran Christian. So he was a very religious guy. Always told me about religion that I never really, I should have paid attention to, but I never did. Um, read the Bible multiple times, can cite any verse that he ever wanted. Even if you quiz him, he will cite any verse. He loved to do, was it word search and crossword puzzles, preferably crossword. That's what he really liked. He struggled on Sudoku for some reason, but crossword, that was his type of thing. And watched a lot of I don't remember the shows. They were black and white. A lot of judge shows and crime shows back then. So that was my grandfather. Now, and of course he passed away. And rest in peace, my grandfather. I miss him a lot. I miss those speeches and miss those wise talks. So rest in peace, my grandfather. I think that was pretty much well of him. I don't think I can think of anything else. So that was my grandfather. Then if you want to talk about my grandma, my Japanese full-blooded grandma, where do I begin? She is, how do I say this? She is like a fireball. She is very energetic fireball. She loved to always go do things. And I'm talking about when I was in baseball. Yeah, your boy played baseball. She would love to go to baseball games. San Francisco Giants, Oakland A's. And I'm talking about when Oakland A's and San Francisco Giants were decent back then. And I'm talking about the Barry Zito days, the Tim Hudson days. I'm talking about Eric Chavez, Miguel Tejada. I'm forgetting a lot of names, so please bear with me. Nick Swisher, I believe he was on the Oakland A's too. Barry Zito, I'm talking. Justice, I forgot his first name. You know the movie? What's that movie with the Oakland A's with Brad Pitt in it? That was the era that we were in, and we went to a lot of games. My grandma, my mom actually was on TV. When it came to a foul ball, my grandma was actually and my mom were on TV when they foul ball and they caught the ball when it rolled down to third base actually. So my grandma was very into baseball games. Watched it, loved it. It kept her going, and she's Japanese, so you already know what that means, right? She loves to go to casinos, love to go to bingo. Um, she's a strong woman, and I mean strong woman. I believe she's 82 years old. She's strong. She's very sharp, very strong. Still drives, which I'm going to hear from multiple people and such like that. But she still drives, still passed her test, still takes care of herself, still tries to be as much independent as she can be. Um, and health wise, she's pretty well, pretty well healthy. I think the worst case she had was breast cancer. She does have an aneurysm in her head, but it's so slow of growing that I think it would just be a natural cause if she was to ever pass, which of course I never hope she does, but it'll be like a natural cause. I think she'll pass before even the aneurysm in her head will even grow to make any effects on her body, to be honest, because it was that slow growing. Um, but she loved baseball. She loved to work too. She loved to work and talk to people. Hold on, let me take that back. She loved to talk to people, certain people. She was a waitress, I guess, 60 years old. She was a waitress making money. She loved being a waitress. She loved going to my baseball games. She was always there for a lot of things. She actually took care of me. My grandma and my grandfather, they both took care of me quite a few times when my mom was in rehab, which that's a whole nother story. I got a lot of stories going on. When she was in rehab, she actually took care of me, and my grandfather took care of me for quite a while. Oh yeah, I forgot the one thing about my grandfather. When he found out I wore whitey tighties, whew, he went to the store, bought briefs, and says, "Throw these away." And I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. He's no longer wearing these. He's wearing boxers, not even briefs. Boxers. He's wearing boxers. He doesn't need to wear that. He threw them away, and I had to wear boxers that day. Next day, boxers. Couldn't wear any whitey tighties no more. I bless him for that, by the way. But with that being said, I lived with them for quite a while. My grandma, she went to Japan. I think 3 to 4 times in the last like 20 years. And we have family members up there. My great aunties. She's a sibling of a family of three, all daughters. She's the oldest one, and she has two younger daughters. And if you guys really want to know what disgrace, like if you guys really think the Japanese heritage doesn't believe in disgrace, they really really do, because my grandma disgraced two of her youngest sisters, and I'm supposedly disgraced. Like I can't even go there. Like I can go there, but like disowned. I don't want to say disgraced, like disowned. Disowned's a real thing out there. So I'm practically like disowned for no reason. My grandma disowned her two youngest, sisters and such like that. So it's a real thing. It's really a real thing. And I've been to Japan once. That's another story too. We'll get onto the podcast, but um, so my grandma, she's been to Japan multiple times. Right now, she currently wants to go on the train, and I think it's to go all the way to Oregon or Washington, where you take that train. It's like a 6, 7 hour train ride, and you go up north. I believe it goes to Oregon or Washington. She's been really wanting to do that, and I've been trying to encourage her to do it. So I think in the summertime she's going to do that. ride the train ride, which, that sounds boring, but it actually sounds peaceful and relaxed, and I would love to try that one time. She still goes to bingo. She still shops. She still worries about her hair, and she still has a lot of hair. She thought when she was having that what's it called? It's not a tumor, but the I just blanked out, y'all. But when she was having that, when she has that in her head, I just blanked out, y'all. I'm so sorry. I'm tired too. She thought she was gonna lose all of her hair when we had to do radiation. So we bought a wig. Comes down to show it, she didn't need that wig at all. She really didn't need it at all because she still has full hair, still looks young. So, still talks a lot of crap. Still very sharp. Nothing can bypass her, and um, she's very sharp, and she loves her grandkids. Of course, her grandkids. The older you get, like me and my brother, she expects us to be very independent and us take care of ourselves. While her other grandkid, which is my little cousin, her daughter's son, he's still young, so she helps takes care of him. Along with that, she does everything she can. It's funny. You should see these two together. My grandma and her youngest grandson. It's funny because her youngest grandson, takes care of her, but she takes care of him. And it's always funny, interesting because he has the sharpest memory I've ever seen, and he's very clever. So, and he has really good memory. So he will remind my grandma, "Hey, like we need to do this. Oh yeah, look at that." Or, "Oh, did you do this?" And my grandma will be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, go do it." And like close the blinds, lock the doors, make sure the dog's in the house, and put dog food in the bowls and such like that. So it's funny how those two work together so well while she takes care of him, like of routine of food and his medicines and such like that. So she's still sharp. She's still a sharp cookie. She says and this is a joke, like it's a dark humor joke, but that's always between her and I, where she says, "I'm not going to live for another year to 2 years," and I'm like, please, I got like another 10 years of dealing with you. And she like, oh, never happen, never happen. I'm like, watch, I got like another 10 years dealing with you. And I'm like, for this Halloween, I'm like, you want to go trick or treat? She's like, no, I can't walk, I can't do anything. I'm like, all right, well, you can sit in the wheelchair and I'll be your nurse and we can be looking like we're from Kaiser or Sutter's being discharged. She's like, no, never happened, never happened. That's embarrassing. So she's very prideful too in that. um, but with my grandma, she grew up rich. She grew up, not rich. I would say kind of in middle class. Her father was poor and her mother was rich, and so she grew up in middle class. Grew up taking care of in Japanese culture. It's usually normal, and usually in a lot of cultures and such like that, that the oldest takes care of the little ones. And you gotta anywhere that you go, you have to take the little ones with you. That was my grandma. Um, like I said, born in Haneda, Tokyo, and she still struggles with English. Um, Luckily, I can understand her a lot of the times. If anything, if I don't understand her, I know what she's going to say. She's kind of predictable with some of the things she's going to say. Once in a while, she'll throw me off. But um, I think that's pretty much her. And that's my grandparents on the one side. Um, good honest family, to be honest. Good honest family. My grandma tries to do everything she can not to take advantage of the system. um and I will say this, and this is going to be pushing buttons sometimes, and this could be pushing, and I like to push buttons, trust me. um just don't The only thing that she's on is, what is it, health insurance and EBT. That EBT thing is a joke, from my understanding, and I think last time I called for her to see what was her balance was, she only gets $20 a month. I think that's the biggest joke there is, because she's a veteran wife of a husband that was in the Navy for 20 plus years. She does have health insurance through the military. Um, but it's like, why EBT? The elderly folks should get EBT and should get a higher dollar amount, because anytime I go to the Dollar Tree, it's sad to see that the retired and elderly folks are shopping at Dollar Tree for their groceries. They lived a long life. They worked their life. They've been through so much stuff. And the reward of their retirement is shopping at Dollar Tree for their groceries. To me, That is not right, and I'm sticking by that. I know a lot of people will be very opinionated on that, but I'm very strong on that one where anyone, I know I'm just saying for my grandma, any grandparent, any grandparents or elderly or retirement should deserve an EBT, money, food stamps, or whatever for not $20 a month. $20 don't get you nothing anymore. $20 barely get you McDonald's. That gives you like 3 Happy Meals. That's it. It don't even get you. $20 gets you one Big Mac meal, medium size, medium fries. That don't even probably get you a large Coke and large fries. Like that's a joke to me. And I'm sticking by that. I'm going to stick by that. If you have a different opinion, I understand and respect that. Maybe, and I like to hear different opinions and such like that. So if you could change my mind on certain things of maybe that's not right and such like that, let me know. Like I said, I'm that type of person. I like to hear different opinions and sometimes pull different opinions from different people and put it into one. So that's me. But so to me, that's not right. That's not right at all, and I don't agree with that. And I'm the biggest disagreement I ever have for that. So but yeah, that's my grandma. That's one of my grandparents on the other side is the full percent German and full percent Japanese, 100% Japanese, 100% German, which is why my mom, she's half Japanese, half German, which makes me a quarter Japanese and quarter German. So hence why I love to fish. Oh yeah, by the way, my grandma's dad, he loved to fish. He was a fisherman, out there in Japan, and he actually used to sell bait. And my grandma always told me, and I actually confirmed it with her. It was either bloodworms or powworms. I want to say more powworms because she remembers thousands of little legs in it. My grandma and her dad used to go um, catch tons of powerworms and sell the powerworms to fishermen. Um, and he had his own boat, and he practically had his own little side job type of thing. And he loved to fish. So I wonder if that's where I get it from too. I mean, there's another side, other side of the family that I found out that he actually liked to fish a little bit too. But so I definitely do have the Japanese side of fishing because of him and also Japan. Japan's known for eating seafood, squid, octopus, raw fish, of course, tuna, salmon, all them good things, sardines, anchovies. People use that for bait, but I also eat those too on New Year's. But we could talk about later about that down the road, so I'm fond about that. So I think it's time for me to go. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. As I'm learning and trying something different. So hopefully everyone has a great night, great day. And again, today is November 13th, Wednesday. So hopefully everyone has a great Thursday. All right, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Peace.